Okay, let's see. Views a slideshow. Alright, for my teacher toolkit, my first toolkit article is about transitions. One major thing I noticed while observing was how hard transitions are, whether that be from coming from the bus to the classroom, going from a class to class, transitioning in the classroom but from a subject to subject, recess back to academics, whatever it is, transitions are awfully hard. And especially hard when there is a change in the schedule during the day. So that sparked my interest on transitions. So this article that I found includes techniques for promoting success between lessons, but the techniques can be generalized and used towards any type of transition. This article focuses on 4 teaching techniques that may help improve transitions. The first being teaching routines, which this has been kind of really, hammered into our head with Sean's class about teaching routines, which I really enjoyed and can see the obvious benefits of teaching a routine. So this is the explicit teaching of the expected behavior. This includes modeling that skill with both incorrect and correct examples, and then providing multiple means of practice, monitoring, and giving feedback. The second technique involves the pre-corrections, and these are important. They are quick reminders of the expected behavior before the transition even happens. The third technique is the positive reinforcement procedures. Some tips for positive reinforcement include specific praise for students can be more powerful than tangible rewards. And ignoring or quickly redirecting the incorrect behavior. And then providing attention contingent with correct behavior. And then the last technique is active supervision, which is an effective method to monitor students. As a teacher, we should scan, move, and interact with our students and give them feedback. So all of these techniques aren't really new information for me, but being taught this and repeatedly seeing these techniques in articles just reestablishes the fact that they're effective and they work and that they should be used in my future classroom. So they also have copies of blank lesson plans and an example of a lesson plan for teaching expected behavior. And I think the teaching was how to teach students how to line up at the door, because that can take a long time if you have 15 students per se to line up at the door. A lot of things can happen between the desk and the door, and what was it? One of the things they had said in that was, instead of, lining up the door, that's good behavior, that's correct behavior, it's, we want to line up at the door so we have more time at recess, so we have more time to do outside activities. And reading articles and stuff gives me that type of language to know now, and because I know teaching is a lot of practice and practice how you say things. So I just really enjoyed reading through that lesson plan and how creating a whole lesson plan just about lining up at the door, and it was really good. So moving on. My second toolkit article is about iPads, because every room that I have been in, students either have their own personal iPads or there's iPads accessible in the classroom. Then technology has given students with special needs a plethora of ways of communication, different ways of assessment, different ways to present. So then I have to ask myself sometimes, how am I supposed to know what apps to download? How do I know they fit with my curriculum? Do they have apps that go with curriculum? Just typical stuff, because I would love to have technology in my classroom, in my future classroom. So this article contains 7 steps to guide teachers along a process to selecting an app to use. So the first step is identifying the learning objective that you want to do. The second would be the select the target apps and reviews. And it said in the article that Connections is great for this type of excuse me, for finding apps and exchanging information about what works with your students, with other educators. Step 3 is select standards to align with the apps. Step 4, identify limitations and essential features of the apps. 5 is to finally choose the app, and it had said it can be very, sorry, what's, overwhelming with how many apps. So just pick a couple, pick 3 to 5, and then this article provides a format where you can there's a guidelines, and it lines up with how it lines up with standards, and you can go through the app and fill out the form with the app. And then so once you choose the app, the next step is to identify the unique learning needs of the students with disabilities and how that would work with the app. And then 7 is iPad setup, and there's so many different ways and restrictions you can put on iPads, so they are not a distraction or a nuisance, rather than something that can be beneficial to the student. So I can use these 7 guidelines in the future and also print out the app forms and how they align with standards, and have that just in my professional resource binder or whatever for when I come across an app that I haven't seen before. So then, yeah, students in my future classroom will have meaningful apps on their iPads, and nothing not beneficial, whatever. Okay, so Toolkit, tool number 3, I wanted to look up an article on parents, as I know I'll be working closely with parents, and I want to be knowledgeable in all areas regarding parents. It's imperative to keep a good relationship with students' parents right from the get-go in the beginning. So as the teacher, I am responsible for preparing parents for their role to play as an active decision maker and partner for the educational decisions for their child, as they also know their child the best and can give a lot of valuable information. So this article provides a list of ways for parents' involvement and engagement pre-IEP conference meeting, during the IEP conference meeting, and then ways after the IEP conference meeting that the teacher can have the parents either be involved or ways to get feedback or information. So I really like that it had the before, during the meeting, and then after. Let's see. This article is important to my future classroom in that now I have more knowledge on how to involve parents in decision making pre, during, and post the IEP meeting conference. I'd also gotten interested in looking up the parents in regards to students with EBD. My current placement is in a 2nd grade EBD classroom, and I have learned that, or with this classroom that I'm in especially, that the teacher has dealt with a lot of things with the parents and home life that aren't necessarily the best, and kind of uncomfortable topics. And the teacher has told me some stories of some hard situations she's had with parents that when she told me I would have no clue how to handle. So just having more information on how to address parents, and I know like number 1 is making them most comfortable, and as a teacher, I want to make them most comfortable and active in their child's academic career. So, yeah. Tool number 4. Oh no, Okay, there it is. So this next tool is a little more for fun, but not really. As well, I was working in or observing in the middle school last semester. We did a lot of cooking. It was like almost every time I was there, we were doing a whole meal preparation, food cooking thing. So this skill is important for young adults with disabilities. This article stated that a review of transition-related objectives in their IEPs of students with cognitive or other developmental disabilities indicated that meal planning and preparation was the most common objective related to the transition to independent living skills. Um, so food preparation can provide access to teaching many different academic and functional skills, including food purchasing, like reading menus and shopping lists and food labels and then also the food preparation skills. So you need some math skills needed to measure, reading skills needed to read a recipe, and then sequencing skills to read the recipe correctly and make the food correctly. And then other things, cooking instruction can lead to choice making, self-determination, and independent living skills, and may have the opportunity for potential social opportunities with other students or in their future. Students that plan on, transitions after high school, should learn to be able to handle, prepare, and store food safely. So all of these skills are covered and important in teaching these skills to increase their success in the future, to live more successfully. And I want to keep this article saved as it has a really good curriculum kind of layout of things that should be taught for food safety and food preparation and why they're important. And then, yeah. Let's see, am I still recording? It looks like my Wi-Fi just went out, but I'm just going to keep going since I'm almost done, and we'll see if this finished. Okay. Tool number 5, addressing test anxiety. So last article obviously has to do with anxiety. And I can relate to this. I have anxiety in many areas of my life, including during testing and more during presentations, but test anxiety I know all too well. And I know how it affects me, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone else. More so with our students that are already struggling and behind. So this article provides strategies and guidelines to help students with disabilities overcome the high levels of anxiety that interfere when test taking. So there's many steps in this article. I'll just touch on a few. The first step as a teacher is to identify the students that do have anxiety, whether they know it or not. So this article, there's a little section on it that provides a list, of signs and symptoms and triggers that as a teacher I can look for pre-test and then during the test as well. And then once I know those signs, I can help those individual students. There's also surveys that I could give students in the beginning of the beginning, oh my goodness, of the year or before the first test that comes along. Oh, and I only have 1 more minute to finish this before this thing stops. Okay. So the next step as a teacher to alleviate test anxiety is to teach how to study for the test, and especially when knowing the content, like teaching exactly what the content, teaching how to study that exact content can alleviate a lot of test anxiety when you know what to study for. And then teaching like anxiety reducing stuff that a teacher can do. There are many ways the teacher can alleviate a little bit of test anxiety and the experience as a whole to take tests. So I would want to do this for my students wholeheartedly if I can. And this video can only be 15 minutes, so I'm at 14 minutes and 48 seconds. So I think that will be it for my toolkit. But all of these really stemmed from observing and watching and wanting to learn more about different experiences.